I don't want to see what's under here. I really don't, but hey ho, here we go. Oh shit. But it's definitely milky.
Yeah.
Why is that leaking water? What's behind there? Welcome back, guys. Right, let's continue with the engine, try and get it running today. But before we do that, we need to paint all the parts that we put in primer last time. We've got a new water pump as well. Check this bad boy out. Quite expensive, but a lot cheaper than the Caterpillar one. So hopefully this fits. Right, let's get these in paint and then we can shoot over to the boat and fit all the parts. So last time we got all these in primer, didn't we? So now we need to paint them. The paint we're going to be using is Raptor. We've had really good success with this in the past, so let's get the engine painted with this. So before we paint, give them a quick Scotch-Brite. Do all a quick panel wipe. Right, so what we masked up now, I've put some bolts into some holes that I don't want to get paint in. I've masked up like the gasket surfaces where the hose is going to go on, like on the breather. Because we're using the Raptor, it's got like a, it's got like a mottled sort of texture to it, which I quite like. But obviously we want to clamp hoses to it and it might not seal correctly. Well, I'm not going to paint the new pump. Just in case it's the wrong one. Because if it was the wrong one, we have to send it back and we're going, oh yeah, we just painted that. Not good, that, is it? So we're going to fit that first. Even though I've checked it with the old one, everything seems to line up, but you just never know, dear. So, right, let's fire some paint at this. So we get the hardener, and it comes with this little pot here, so we're going to fill up to that line with the hardener. Perfect. We then pour the entire contents into there. You then stick the lid back on it. You then shake it for 2 minutes. So we'll let these dry and then we'll take them to the boat and fit them. Right, we're back then, so let's get this reassembled. Right, first we need to fit the gear, which is the pump drive. So it drives off this gear here, drives this one, also drives the fresh water pump or the glycol pump, and the raw water pump goes in it. There's the splines. Put a new bearing on that because that was a bit poorly. So see if we can get this back in. It's a beauty. Give it some oil. We'll see if she fits. Like a glove. So it has to push the bearing onto the back of this, but we'll pull it in with the bolts. I even cleaned and painted all the bolts. Don't think they're going to look that pretty for long, are they? Even though they're not that good, but... I don't think these ones had washers on them to begin with, and I haven't actually got any washers here that big. Right, let's turn our attention now to the water pump. This is the engine cooling circulation pump, which I thought this plate was a blanking plate. Proved me wrong, didn't it? Okay, so I've made my own gasket because Caterpillar wanted, I think it's like 20 quid for that gasket, so made my own. Right then, our oil pressure sender's definitely seen better days. I've already slackened it off. Slackened it off early, but I'll pull it back into make sure no crud got in there. So what I've got is just a manual gauge at the moment, which we're gonna stick on the side of the engine, and then we can see how healthy the engine is by the oil pressure, depending on temperature and stuff like that. So let's get this fitted. So in the future we will be replacing all of these, but we'll probably be going digital. So we'll probably having a digital dash in the wheelhouse, but yeah, we will be monitoring pressure in the wheelhouse at some point. But just for now, we're going to put this one in, and then once we start it, we can instantly see. Or there's no electronics to fail, is there? All it's measuring is pressure. Right, so while we're here, I think we'll fit the oil filter. So I think we'll pre-fill the oil filter. Right, so now we'll fit this pipe. This pipe goes from the pump up to the aftercooler, the charge cooler thingy. So it goes around there somewhere. Got some nice shiny new silicone hose. So they're going to be replacing them. And there's another one down here somewhere. Right, so let's get this top piece on first. And we've got a slight technical glitch with this, but I'll show you in a second. So the technical glitch I spoke of earlier, see these two pipes here, they've never quite lined up. There's always been a bit of a kick in the pipe, so in the hose. It's quite unusual. I think it's probably a problem with this pipe here, maybe, but that's a future job. We'll just get the pipe on for now. For this we're using a genuine Caterpillar gasket. Weirdly, it was already on the boat. Weirdly. Wonder why. This one's a bit loose in there. Obviously this T-piece has been made up at some point. So we'll have to look into that in the future. Obviously we'll be changing all the hose clips as well. This work on the engine now is just basically, let's fix the problem of the water ingress. I think it looks quite good in the Raptor with the white toner in it. Especially when you look at the original engine. I quite like the textured finish rather than the dirty smooth. Right, so we've done all the water pump down and stuff like that. What we need to do now is look at the top end. So what I noticed when I took it apart, was there's actually a broken valve spring. So if you can hear, I can manipulate all the valve springs. This one is very, very weak, and I was like, oh, that's weird, why is that weak? And it turns out it's actually got a broken coil on it. So we need to change the valve spring, but we need to do the valve spring really with the head on. So what we need to do is find TDC on number 1, which is the crank pulley end. Get the piston right up to TDC so we can't lose the valve inside the head. That would be a problem. Or inside the cylinder, sorry. Right, so let's try and figure out how we're going to do that. So we need to turn the engine so we can find TDC. But on the crank pulley, I'm guessing there's supposed to be a big bolt that you can rotate the engine with. But there's actually an auxiliary pulley being put on the end for the stabilisers and other systems. So I think what we need to do is try and remove this pulley. Then there should be a big nut on the back. And what I will do, I weld a 1/2 inch socket on here so we can basically get a drive on it. Well, we turned the engine a bit anyway, so that's good. Right, so now in theory, it should just pop off. What do you reckon? Oh yes. I just remembered one of our viewers bought us this beautiful impact set ages ago. And it's an 1 1/8 inch. Don't know why I told you the size, you might be following along at home, who knows. Right, so I've been struggling to find TDC. I've been looking in manuals and all that sort of stuff. So they're basically saying it's here through the flywheel, but I can't see any marks or pointers or anything like that. So our primary objective is to get number 1 on TDC. So we can push on the valve collar to get the collets out and we don't lose the valve. So I'll come up with a plan. So what I've done is set up, I put a bolt in it, I put a spanner on it, that's on top of the valve. Then I've got some weights here, so I've got a big hammer, 2 blocks of lead. Now that is compressing the valve. So you can see it's pushing the valve up and down, yeah? So if we leave the valve compressed, so now in theory now if I crank the engine, then when it comes up on TDC on 1, then it should lift all the weights up, shouldn't it? There's not that much tension on it, it's just basically, say, neutrally buoyant at the moment, so it's not going to bend the valve or anything daft like that. So let's give that a try. It's quite hard to turn at the moment because no valves are open and every time it rotates each cylinder's compressing. Whoa, see that then? Right, just teetered on TDC now. I'm moving this back and forward ever so slightly. Right, on TDC now. Right, so now we've found TDC, I'll come up with another plan to compress the valve spring. Obviously you'd normally take the head off, use a valve spring compressor, you compress it, then you can take the collets out. I have done them in the past on old engines, CVHs and stuff like that. You can change the valve stem oil seals on the car, but you have to get it to TDC. Anyway, we're at TDC now. So the only way I can really compress the valve spring on the boat with not many proper tools with me is, so we've got a porter power, so that's going to separate that way. Got a big spanner over the valve spring, over the collar. Then we've got another spanner going across from the engine pickup point to the cooler. So now in theory now, if I push down on the hydraulics on this, it should push the valve spring down, but leave the valve roughly around there. Right, I'm going to start pumping now. Right, let's just touch the piston. Please don't ping off. Right, I've been to spend about 10 minutes trying to convince myself that it's definitely on TDC. So compress the valve spring, and pushing the valve down and it's hitting the piston, so we can't lose the valve. It's not just going to fall out anyway, is it? But right, let's take these collets out. Second one. Right, I'm going to slowly release the spring now. Turns out the camera's leaning on it a bit, falling over. We can't. Yes. I was panicking a bit, you know, but now you can lift it up and you can drop it onto the piston. If that piston wasn't on TDC, that could actually fall in. So now I can lift it up and down and it just drops onto the top of the piston. Turns nice. Minimal play and flow, so it's good. Right, let's clean this up, find the new spring, try and put that on it. There's the old spring. See, we wouldn't have noticed any running discrepancies, any on idle. You probably wouldn't even, what would you notice? They're not really high valve spring rates, but the engine only does about 2,500 revs. So what it's doing is carrying the weight of all the rocker gear, the cam followers, the push rod, and it's all quite chunky stuff. So what you don't want to do is the valve to stay open, so you want the valve to close, don't you? So that's why you have a certain valve spring rate for the RPM of the engine. Anyway, but that wouldn't have probably kept up at 2,500 revs anyway, so good to change it now. I have bought 12 valve springs, but I think I'm going to actually make a tool, a decent tool. You can push maybe from the ceiling, it's a big fork on it or something to push down, make our life a bit easier, and I need to get the proper timing so I know where TDC is on each cylinder, because that cylinder was quite easy to find with the broken spring. That helped us, didn't it, find TDC, so it'd be difficult to do it on the rest. So we'll just stick with this one for now, because I say the major engine work is going to be in a couple of years. So right, let's clean these parts. You ever seen a retainer rotate, so you can allow maybe for the valve to rotate on the spring? So if you get wear on top of the valve and it knocks it around a bit, so it's not a spring bound or whatever you call it. I've never seen that before. Right then, let's see if we can compress this. Now let's put these collets in. It's a beauty. Right, push rod time. Right, we can now put the rockers on. Make sure they're semi-lined up. I'm using my appropriate 15/16 sockets, which somebody kindly bought us a long while back. It's just started to take up now. Right, so we've got like a manual off the internet. Just had a look at the torque specs for the cylinder head. Stage 1's 155 Newton meters, and stage 2's 250 Newton meters. So I'm just going to bring them up to 100, and then we'll work our way down. So set it at 100 for now. Right, now the next lot's 250. There we go. Right, I've got to make a brew now. Right, I've checked all the valve clearances. Did it off camera, that took quite a long time that, but you have to push one down, measure that one. Right, valve cover time I think. Should probably clean my hands before I touch this. A lot of people said, oh, you shouldn't paint the inside of the engine. Well, I want it to not corrode. And I think their school of thought is that the oil's gonna, I don't know, soften the paint and stuff, but there is actually painted parts inside this engine. In fact, I've noticed some down in the crankcase before. Right, let's find the bolts. So, I've actually lost the bolt. It's probably at work. Well, I cleaned all these up on the little white wheel at work and painted them up. But I think it's have one missing, then loads left over. Perfect now. Right, don't care what anyone says, this antifreeze is going back in. We did a test on it just before winter, just to make sure it wasn't going to freeze, perfectly fine. So for now, it's fine. Even though it looks like that. Ugh. So because it looks so minging, we're going to filter it. An old t-shirt. Got all the scum on the top. I'm not sure where this is going to go, but well, this is the antifreeze we've cleaned. The main reason I'm not changing it is because I've changed colour in the past. I don't know what brand this is. I'm guessing it's Caterpillar's own or something. And I've had problems in the past with changing brands with like water pump seals and stuff. So for now, we know this didn't affect the seals and stuff, so it's going to go back in. It's got a good antifreeze. It's got a good freeze protection onto it. So right then, so she's all back together now with a fancy new raw water pump. Bit of paint here and there. Some lovely red hoses. Right, what we need to do now is run her. problem with running marine engines is you need to be floating, don't you? We haven't got enough water for about another week. So, don't worry, we're still going to run her. What we could do is take the impeller out. We don't really want to do that because that's part of the test, isn't it? That's what we've been fixing. Fixing the water pump. So, what I've done is rigged up a bucket. So we've got a bucket here, to this pipe here, follow it all the way along, goes to the raw water pump. So hopefully then it'll pump the water, and it'll go up here, through the cooler, down here, into the heat exchanger, and then when it comes out of the heat exchanger, back up this pipe, and then back into the bucket. Obviously all we need to do is circulate water. We're not trying to cool it because basically it's going to take a long time for the engine to actually get up to operating temperature, so then the thermostat opens, then that's when the raw water circuit comes in. But we need it there just to basically move water at the moment, so we're going to try and run it when we're not floating. Right, everything checks out, all levels are good, water's good in my bucket. What I'm expecting, well it will happen, this water's going to go away very quickly, so I've got a few more buckets there to top that bucket up. Once it's in the system, it'd be great. Yeah, all good. Ready to turn the key. Don't know why I'm panicking. I'm a bit like, ooh, what I forgot, but it's all good, isn't it? Right, let's crank her up. I'm just gonna give it a nudge at first, make sure she turns properly. Oh yes. Plenty of water, that's good. Right, I'm going to stop it and we'll check the oil. Right, didn't even mean to start then, all I was doing was jogging the engine, so basically just sort of, I don't know, in case you're anything, ka-ding, you're like, 72 psi of oil pressure. I think that's quite good, maybe. I'll have to check in the manual. But yeah, oil's dropped a tiny bit, but nothing to really need to be topped up just yet. Right, should we give it a longer run? Wrong, it was 62 psi. I'll still check it. Nice and oily in there, which is good. It means it's moving oil up top. I was expecting it to be like a lot louder, you know, because of the lack of water. But sounds good, doesn't it? Forgot to say, remove this bolt here, and you can put a pin in it, then that's how you find TDC. But we didn't need to find that out because we did it our way, didn't we? But in the future, we know when we're timing it properly, we can do it via there. Right, so what do you think? I think we did a good job, didn't we? Run sweet, no dramas, moving a lot of oil. 62 psi was reading then. Lifted the breather off. It's not breathing at all, which is a really good sign. And you could see oil moving. You guys probably couldn't see that, I don't know. I did try and put the camera down there. Lots and lots of water moving. No dramas. Circulation pumps working fine. You could see, well, I could feel pipes getting warmer as she warmed up. The actual paint, what do you think? I think it's quite nice. I think take some cleaning maybe. A few dirty hands on it at the moment, but a bit of a test, like a long-term test this, just to see if we can, I don't know, see how the paint survives. I'm sure it'll be perfectly fine because it's Raptor. It is like the strongest paint known to me. So yeah. Thank you to everyone who gave us donations as well after the last engine video we did. That's awesome. That has paid for the pump, so thank you so much. Yeah, thanks to all our patrons. If you're not already subscribe, give us a like, you know, algorithms and all that sort of jazz. Right, see you guys in the next one. Cheers now, bye.